studying your last two. I swim med tea when they turned in. The staring down to mute. And can learn the pole that sunk he died.
Every T2 corporate tax return begins with one critical step: completing the T2 information page. Although it may look like simple administrative work, this page serves as the foundation for the entire corporate tax return. Think of the information page as the control center of the T2 return. The information entered here is used throughout the tax software and automatically flows into many other schedules. If the information entered at this stage is incorrect, it can affect multiple parts of the return and may even lead to incorrect tax calculations. The first section captures the corporation's basic information. This includes the legal name of the corporation, its business number, the incorporation date, the fiscal year end, the province where it operates, and the industry classification code. These details identify the corporation and tell the CRA exactly which entity is filing the return. This page also determines the corporation's eligibility for various tax benefits. Information such as the province of operation and corporation type influences how taxes are calculated and which schedules will be required later in the return. As you can see in the diagram, the information page doesn't exist in isolation. It acts like a central control panel that sends information to schedules such as Schedule 50 for shareholder information, Schedule 1 for tax adjustments, Schedule 2 for charitable donations, Schedule 8 for capital cost allowance, and many other schedules throughout the T2 return. As a tax preparer, your first responsibility is to ensure that every piece of corporation information entered here is complete and accurate. Spending a few extra minutes verifying these details can prevent many errors later in the preparation process. Before calculating taxable income or corporate tax, always remember this simple rule. Every accurate T2 return starts with an accurate information page. Now that we've understood the purpose of the T2 information page, let's look at the actual information that needs to be entered and why each field is important. The first step is entering the corporation's basic details exactly as they appear in the official records. This includes the legal name of the corporation, its business number, the incorporation date, the fiscal year end, the province of operation, and the industry code that describes the corporation's primary business activity. When you're practicing or working through examples, you may see a sample or dummy business number. That's perfectly acceptable for learning purposes. However, in a real client engagement, every piece of information must match the CRA's records exactly to avoid processing issues. One of the most important decisions on the information page is selecting the correct corporation type. In this example, Baker's Dozen Limited is a Canadian-controlled private corporation, commonly known as a CCPC. This selection is extremely important because many of Canada's corporate tax benefits are available only to qualifying CCPCs. By identifying the corporation as a CCPC, the software can correctly calculate important tax benefits, such as the small business deduction, apply the lower corporate tax rates available to eligible corporations, and determine eligibility for various federal and provincial tax credits. Selecting the wrong corporation type could lead to incorrect tax calculations and an inaccurate T2 return. Another important item is the provincial allocation. Since Baker's Dozen Limited earns all of its business income in Ontario, 100% of its taxable income is allocated to Ontario. Because the corporation operates in only one province, no multi-province income allocation is required, making the provincial tax calculation much simpler. The key lesson from this slide is that accurate corporation information and the correct corporation classification form the foundation for every tax calculation that follows. Taking the time to verify these details at the beginning helps ensure that the rest of the T2 return is prepared accurately, and that the corporation receives all the tax benefits it is entitled to. Now that the corporation information has been entered, the next step is completing the T2 questionnaire. At first glance, these questions may seem like simple checkboxes, but they actually play a very important role in preparing the corporate tax return. Think of the questionnaire as the instruction manual for the tax software. Based on your answers, the software determines which schedules are required and automatically adds them to the return. Instead of manually selecting forms, the software builds the correct T2 package for the corporation. For example, shareholder information activates Schedule 50. Accounting income adjustments requires Schedule 1. Charitable donations activate Schedule 2. Capital assets lead to Schedule 8 for capital cost allowance calculations. Similarly, provincial tax calculations may activate Schedule 5 when applicable. An important point to understand is why Schedule 5 appears in this example. Since Baker's Dozen Limited operates entirely in Ontario, you might assume that Schedule 5 is related to operating in multiple provinces. However, that's not the case. Schedule 5 is activated because it is used to calculate provincial corporate tax and provincial tax credits. Even when a corporation operates in only one province, this schedule may still be required. The preparation process now becomes very systematic. First, complete the information page. Next, answer the questionnaire accurately. The tax software then activates only the schedules that are relevant to the corporation. After that, each schedule is completed, reviewed, and finally combined into the finished T2 corporate tax return. One of the biggest differences between experienced tax preparers and beginners is how they think about the questionnaire. Professionals do not try to memorize every schedule in the T2 return. Instead, they understand why each question is being asked, which schedule it activates, and how that schedule ultimately affects the corporation's taxable income and tax payable. The key takeaway is that the information page and questionnaire are much more than administrative forms. Together, they define the structure of the entire T2 return and ensure that the correct schedules are prepared for the corporation's specific circumstances.